Hello, everyone. This is Lala, and today I'm going to be talking about Era 3 women who have done at least 3 seasons and update my list based off of when I did it a few years ago. I did the same thing for Era 2 a day ago, and another one for Era 1 2 days ago, and I'm going to do the same thing for Era for tomorrow. So it'll be interesting to see where things balance because I am sure that some have changed not only due to them doing the most recent 2 seasons, but also my opinions on others who retired could have just changed, gone up, or it could have changed positively or negatively. So let's get to it. Okay, so now we're in era 3, and I remember being kind of shocked with how weak they were as collective. With the Era 1 woman, at least you could say, okay, the formats were trash, they were very dated, there wasn't that competitive edge until the latter eras of Era 1 due to the formatting issues. But with Era 3, there's no excuse. This is the era where they're doing mainly pair or individual seasons, or I think they would be more successful. But, anyways, let's get to it. The bottom five are pretty much some of the worst of the worst. There's really nothing excusing them. They lack success overall. Anyways, at 20th is Simone Kelly, who played on Battle of the Exes 2, Rivals 3, and Dirty 30. So she did 3 seasons, so not many seasons, and she was out relatively early in all of them. I believe she was like the third boot in Battle of the Exes 2. She was the reason why they lost that elimination. Honestly, there's so much happening due to all the DQs and the quits and the to be continued due to all the drama happening earlier on in the season. So she felt like she was there. It felt like she was there longer than she was, but she and Thomas quit in the third elimination where they were most likely getting be sent home anyways. And then on 30-30, she was dead last because she got into a physical altercation with Shane. So yeah, she only went into one elimination, which she lost. There's just not much for me to hold on to here. At 19th is Latoya Jackson, who competed on Free Agents, Invasion of the Champion, and 30-30. Essentially the same thing with her. She was out relatively early on all 3 of the seasons that she was on, and she wasn't on many of the seasons anyway. She was only on 3. Free Agents, I think she was like the fourth out. She did win in elimination, so that's honestly like the only reason why she's higher than Simone, to be honest. Invasion of the Champion, she didn't make it to the Oasis and lost the third elimination. So there is that. And then she was out in the first purge. Yeah, she was out in the purge first thing in 30-30 and then lost the redemption. So yeah, pretty much same thing as Simone, at least she has the elimination win. Yeah, at 18th is Jessica McCain, who competed on Rivals 2, Free Agent, Battle of the Access 2, and Rivals 3. I could easily get people's arguments with putting her last due to her track record. She has done 4 seasons and she only has one decent season. She was booted last on Rivals 2, though that was mainly due to her partner more than her. Free Agents was actually a pretty decent season for her, as she made it close to the end game and pretty deep on that season, but it wasn't good enough. And it's more than what Latoya and Simone have, so that's why she's higher. But her last 2 seasons were just utter crap. She was booted second on Battle of the Exes 2. She would have been booted first if it wasn't for the redemption twist. She and Dustin won that over Thomas and his partner. So they were booted second instead of first due to that. And then Rivals 3, she and Johnny were thrown into the first elimination due to their poor performance and them getting last. They won that elimination, so she won elimination that bumped her up. And then they lost the second Daily went into elimination and lost. Her elimination record is 1-4, meaning that she won one and lost four, so at a 20% rate. I forgot to mention Latoya. She won one elimination, lost 2 eliminations. She has a 33% rate. Essentially, Free Agents is why Jessica's higher than the other two. Otherwise, there's not much there at all. At 17th is Jasmine Reynard, who competed on Rivals 1, Battle of the Exes 1, Battle of the Seasons 2012, Battle of the Seasons 2, Rivals 2, Free Agents, All Stars 2, and All Stars 4. So the thing with Jasmine compared to the others is that she has made it to the end game a few times, i.e., Rivals 1 and All Stars 2. So I do give her credit for that, and it gives me something to latch on to. So that's why she's higher than the other three. And she's never been booted early in the elements that she's been one of the first two boots. That's not something that she's ever been. Battle of the X's one, I think she was booted like fourth or fifth. So like a third way through. Battle of the Seasons 2012, she made it close to the end game, but not quite. Yeah, her team was in power. They were working very closely with the San Diego team there. Um, Rivals 2, I think she and Teresa made it midway through the season, and obviously she didn't do well in elimination, but it was Teresa's missions that got them in that position to begin with. Free Agents, yet again, was booted like a third way through the season. And then All Stars 4, I think she's booted at mid season and All Stars 4. So this the thing with Jasmine. She usually makes it like a third way or halfway or a bit past halfway. So never too early, but very rarely an endgame run. She's never made it to a final. Her elimination record is worse than most of the others below her, as she won. I don't even want to say she won that one elimination. Janae won that one elimination for her, and she has lost 7 eliminations, making her record or her percentage being 13% elimination success rate. Eh, those few deep runs is why she's higher, but otherwise there's not much there. So at 16th is Brittany Thornton, who competed on Dirty 30, Vendettas, and Final Reckoning. She is also someone that has never made it to the end game of the season. She made it like 2/3 through Dirty 30. She won a few eliminations there. It was a pretty solid season for her there as a rookie. Vendetta, she was booted around like 2/3 through the season. Tony and Zach kind of backstabbed her, not end game, but past the halfway point. And then she was booted first on Final Reckoning. Yeah, she has a 2-2 elimination rate, so she won 2 and lost 2, and that's a 50% elimination rate. So yeah, she has one poor season, 2 mess seasons, and never been an end gamer, much less a finalist. So that's where she is. With the next set of women, there's something there to like grab onto, like something. Um, they're not complete flops. They have a few deep runs. A few of them might have a good elimination record. What some of them might have 1 or 2 finals appearances, and yeah, so they have some accomplishments compared to a lot of the women below them, but there's still not a whole lot there. So at 15th is Nicole Ramos, who competed on Battle of the Bloodlines, Rivals 3, Dirty 30, and Vendettas. So she was like a mid-season boot on Battle of the Bloodlines, nothing really notable there. The one season that has her high up is Rivals 3, where she and her partner pretty much decided to kiss up to Bananas and his alliance, even to the chagrin of her own cousin Nani, and it worked for them because they got to the location change and were booted right before the final. She won her only elimination in the season, so there is that. 3030 was yet another notable season for her. She wasn't really in the majority alliance, but she wasn't one of the big targets that got her midway through the season, but she was also someone that was very, very expendable, hence her mid-season boot, and then her final season, Vendettas, had her perked before even getting to the house. She has a 1-2 elimination record, meaning she won 1 and lost 2, so she has a 33% rate when it comes to success. At 14th is Amanda Garcia, who competed on Rivals 3, Invasion of the Champions, 3030, Final Reckoning, War of the Worlds 1, Spice Lights and Allies, Battle of the Eras, and USA 2. Some might feel like she should be higher, but honestly, I'm kind of being generous here. She has a few deep runs, emphasis on a few, and that is Invasion of the Champions and Spies, Lies, and Allies. And she did show some moves there, so we'll give her props to that. Rivals 3, she was an alternate who was added on, and she just classified with everyone, and she was sent home pretty quickly. though they did win an elimination before her quick boot there. Invasion of the Champions was when the Lavender Ladies were formed and they controlled part of that season. She was booted immediately on Dirty 30 due to being purged out and losing their redemption. Final Reckoning was the season that she should have won, or she should have made it to the end. She had the numbers. She and Tech were competing very well together. They won so many dailies in the season, but they couldn't get along and they self imploded around like two-thirds through the season when they were safe. So there was that. War Other Worlds won. She didn't have her alliances. She made it like a third way through the season, or a bit less than halfway through the season. So there's that. Spice Lice and Allies, she joined the veterans in sticking together so they can push out all the newbies and so they can buy themselves time to get to the end game. That worked for her. She was booed right before the end game. And then her final two seasons were just bad. She was booed first on Battle of the Eras, and then she was booed like third or fourth on USA 2. Actually, no, I think she might have been the second female to be booted on that season. Yeah, I think she was the second female to be booted on that. Hold on, let me look it up quickly. Okay, she was the third woman booted on that season. So either way, not good. Final two seasons weren't good at all. She has a 2 to 7 elimination rate, so she won 2 and lost 7. Her percentage rate in success in eliminations is 29%. So very few deep runs and a poor elimination record, and she gets herself into trouble when she's not with her solidified alliance. Pretty much says it all. At 13th is Avery Tressler, who competed on Battle of the Exes 2, Rivals 3, Battle of the Eras, and All Stars 4. So she hasn't competed in many seasons. Battle of the Exes, she was booted like two-thirds through the season. She had her Portland people. She won a few eliminations on that season, so I'll give her that, but they're most likely in those positions because they lost the dailies. And then, yeah, they're booted like two-thirds through that season. Rivals 3, she was DQ'd immediately because Leroy, her partner, had an injured back. Not her fault, obviously. Battle of the Era, she made it about halfway through the season. Not much to really talk about there. She won an elimination there, though she had a lot of assistance help before booted a bit before the halfway mark. And then All Stars Rivals, she didn't really have any main alliances, but she was seen as one of the stronger women on the season, which is why she got purged right before the final. So she has one deep run. Her early boot wasn't her fault, and she has two mid-season boots. Essentially, the one positive she has outside of that is her elimination record, where she won 3 and lost 2. So she has a 60% success rate in eliminations. At 12th is Marie Rhoda, who competed on Battle of the Seasons 2, Invasion of the Champions, Dirty 30, Vendettas, and Final Reckoning. So she only played on 5 seasons and she does have two deep runs. So that boosted her up a bit. And she has a finals appearance. And I think she's the first one out of everyone in this era that I've talked about so far that does have a finals appearance. So that automatically bumped her higher than a bunch of the others below her. At the same time, sorry, so she made it to the end game in Battle of the Seasons 2012. She was the one person on the team who was trying to play politically, but her teammates kind of lunatics. So she had to maneuver that way. She definitely helped them make it far for a bit, but then things just fell apart at the end. She was booted first innovation of the champion, just really bad showing there. Um, 30-30 and Vendettas had her kind of in the group, but on the outskirts as well. Not, yeah, wasn't an early target, but was seen as expendable, hence her being booted mid-season on both 30-30 and Vendettas. And then Final Reckoning, she was a subsidiary of the Lavender Ladies. At the same time, Farmery had ties to the other side of the house, so they're good for a bit. But then she was very expendable. Redemption House helped her get back into the house after being booted late, and then made it to her first and only final there. Her elimination record is poor. She won 2 and lost 5, meaning she has a 29% success rate. Yeah. Not much to say there. She had a few deep runs. She can be political. So I give her that over many of the women below her. So she has something. And the final person in this grouping at 11th is Jamie Carroll, who competed on Battle of the Seasons 2, Rivals 2, Free Agents, Battle of the Exes 2, 3030, Vendettas, Final Reckoning, All Stars 1, and All Stars 3. So she's the first person on this list who's been to two finals, so that definitely bumped her up here, but it's sad that she with her record only midway where she'd be lower on a lot of other lists. But anyways, Battle of the Seasons 2012, she was booted roughly around halfway through the season. She was in the majority alliance, but was booted so much earlier than all of them because her team just sucked in the dailies. It's always getting last. I was two was a good showing for her. She won a few eliminations. She and Camilla worked well together, and they made it to the final. So there is that. And that's her first final. Free Agent was a horrible season. She was thrown into elimination due to the skeleton twist or whatever, or that card twist, and then she lost the first elimination. While of the X2, she was booted fourth because she and Knight just were not good at the competitions. She took a break for a while. She came back in 3030. She made some dirty moves. She was a bit political here and there, but she wasn't in the main alliance. She was booted around 3 quarters through the season. Vendetta, she was intentionally playing an under the radar game. She was in good with a lot of the people. She wasn't a target on the season. She was booted right before the final, but that was because she lost the purge. Wasn't because anyone was targeting her. And then she was booted right away on Final Reckoning. All Stars won. She made it to the final there, and she was younger than all of the people, and she didn't know many of them. At the same time, most like over half the cast made it to the final on All Stars. She got seven, so she didn't do that poorly, but at the same time, she was younger. And then also, Steve, she left early because her father passed away, which is definitely understandable. Her elimination record is 2-4, meaning she won two and lost four. I believe both of the eliminations she won was on Rivals 2. And you could attribute that more to Camilla more than anything else. And then she lost all the other ones. So she has several deep runs, so I do give her credit for that. But she does have a few early boots that bumps her down and a few at best mediocre seasons. Okay, so these next set of women are the ones who I think have overall positive challenge careers, or they're a bit above mediocre, leading positive in comparison, but there's still definitely some holes in their games or their careers. At 10th is Ashley Kelsey, who competed on Battle of the Seasons 2, Invasion of the Champions, and All Stars 5, and she is the new addition onto this tier list since the last video I made, since she competed on All Stars Rivals. So on Battle of the Seasons 2012, her team was in control of the politics that was happening in the season, though she was arguably the most passive one. Actually, no, she might not have been the most passive one when it comes to that. She held her own. She won an elimination at the end game to get to the final, and they did end up winning. Invasion of the Champions just showed how out of depth she was compared to all of the other veterans, especially the women, and she was booted right away. All Stars Rivals is an interesting season. Obviously, she was with people that she knew from her San Diego season, and she was partnered with her ex Dario, and they did okay. They got a start earlier on, and they weren't poor performers. They also won an elimination, and they were booted right before the end game. So overall, I think she's kind of median, or she's mediocre overall. But she is, I think, out of all the challengers, she's probably like the most baseline player. She has two elimination wins and two elimination losses, so she's a 50% rate. Anyways, at ninth, I do have Sylvia Ellsworth, who competed on Invasion of the Champions, Vendettas, Final Reckoning, All Stars 3, and All Stars 5. So she was booted like midway through Invasion of the Champions, so she had to win a few eliminations to get as far as she did in the season because she was consistently underestimated. Vendettas wasn't a good season for her. She did win another elimination against Melissa, but she was pulled right away. After that, early on in the season, because she was sick, Final Reckoning was definitely a very strong season for her. She and Joss were the only pair in the house who were there from the very beginning and made it to the very end without being eliminated, without going to redemption, without debuting late. And they were definitely a center pin in the main alliances that were happening in the season. She also won, yeah, they won two eliminations that season as well. So they got thrown in the sand when they needed to, and they got runner up on that season. All Stars 3 was a season where she was in the majority alliance yet again, so she always finds herself in decent enough positions politically, especially, yeah, she usually does, especially post like her first season or so. Um, but she went into elimination about two-thirds through the season and lost, and then All Stars Rivals was just a bad showing overall. Her elimination record is still at a positive, where she won five and lost three with a 63% rate, but it's definitely lowering and that animation record's getting weaker and weaker. At eighth is Naya Moore, who competed on Free Agents, Battle of the X's2, All Stars 3, World Championship, Battle of the Eras, and New Threats and Vets. So Free Agents was just poor season for her. She was the third out, if I recall, and she was obviously a rookie, so she was gonna have to prove herself anyways. Battle of the X's2 was definitely a good season for her. She won many different eliminations. She had her alliances. Though she got very emotional at times where it became a detriment to her game, and she obviously took herself out in the end game where she did what she did to Jordan, where she had a very strong case of making it to the final. Without that, she's not on the show for a while. She comes back in All Stars 3. She won her elimination against Sylvia that season. The daily she performed horribly on, and that's something that will unfortunately follow her for the rest of her challenge career. But she made it to her first and only final here. World Championship was a poor showing for her. She was the second out. Battle of the Era, she made it a bit past the halfway mark. She won elimination there. And then she was DQ'd second on New Sets and Vets due to the injury that she received during the opening challenge. So overall, pretty mediocre career, a bit more positive, though she had a fair share of early boots and fair share of deep runs. Her elimination record, one of the main positives she has, with a 5-3 elimination record, and she has a 63% elimination rate there. So these next two people are interesting because they are multi-champions, but they have such huge flaws in their games. So at seventh is Janae Mannion, who competed on Rivals 1, Battle of the Seasons 2, Rivals 2, Free Agents, Battle of the X's 2, All-Stars 1, All-Stars 2, All-Stars 3, World Championship, USA 2, of the Eras, All-Stars 5, New Threats, and Vets. So many seasons there. Her first run on the show involved her usually making it to the end but not getting to the final, which we saw in Rivals 1, where she single-handedly won the elimination against Sarah and Caitlyn there, got booed right before the final, and they were rookies on that season. The same thing with Battle of the Seasons 2012, where the Cancun team were working very in tandem with the San Diego team. She avoided elimination until the location change because she knew she wasn't that good, and then she got booted right then. And then she made it to the end game in Rivals 2, though she and Annie were on the outs of that big alliance with the women and some of the other men there. Free Agents and Battle of the Axis 2 were also seasons where she made it pretty deep in, but not end game. I believe she was booted around two-thirds through both of those seasons. Obviously, things turned around for her for the positive in All Stars 1, All Stars 2, and All Stars 3, where she started performing well in the dailies and she made it to three back to back finals, which is huge because she never made it to the finals before. She tied for the best woman in the final with Kellyanne on All Stars 1, though it seemed like Kellyanne probably would have won the tiebreaker if there was one. And then she won All Stars 2 with MJ, though that win was controversial. And then she won the solo season of All Stars 3. These seasons really bumped her up. Unfortunately, her other seasons haven't been strong. World Championship. She was booted like a third way through because her partner got injured. Though she had a strong start there, was booted very early on in USA 2, was booted like a third way through in Battle of the Eras, an early boot there. She was booted immediately on All Stars Rivals, and then she lasted like a quarter of the season in Vets and New Threats, though she came in a quarter way through the season. I do think Janae gets sloppy politically at times and she gets very paranoid with red people the wrong way. She has gotten a lot better in the dailies throughout her career, so I give her props there. But her elimination record is weak. She only won 4 and she has lost 9, meaning that her elimination percentage rate is at 31%. So at 6 is Ashley Mitchell, who competed on Rivals 3 Invasion of the Champions, 30-30, Final Reckoning, War of the Worlds 1, War of the Worlds 2, Total Madness, Double Agents, Specialized and Allies, Authors 5, and Vet Edu Set. So the thing with Ashley, is that she is good at finals from what we've seen, hence her winning 2 out of the 3 finals that she's been in. But it's very rare for her to have a deep one. Rivals 3, she was booted like two-thirds through the season, though that mainly had to do with Corey's sloppy gameplay. She did win Invasion of the Champion, so that is impressive, and she did form a majority alliance there. She quit immediately under the 30, so there's not much to talk about there. And she did win Final Reckoning, though she came in like 40% through the season. So that really was annoying. She didn't really do well in the dailies there, but her odds were still so so she was protected through that entire run. Things get spotty after this, where she was booted immediately on War of the Worlds 1. She did make it to the final on War of the Worlds 2, where she didn't have her allies from previous seasons there, so she really had to integrate herself with a different group of people there. She was booted very early on in Total Madness and Double Agents, so not good there. She was making it deep in Spice License and Allies, but then her fight with Josh got her kicked out when she probably would have made the final there. She was booted early on All Stars Rivals, and she made it pretty deep on Vets and New Threats, but not endgame deep. So Dailies isn't Ashley's strongest suit, to be honest. And then she has a poor elimination record, where she has only won 4 eliminations and has lost 7. So her rate percentage in that regard is 36%. There's just so many seasons where she is in early boots that it's hard to ignore. In addition to her poor elimination record and her lack of end game runs, though that's kind of countered by her wins, but yeah, it's why I couldn't have her too high. So at 5th is Kayla Casillas Bird, and honestly, I could easily move her down in the future. I just don't feel like doing it right now. Anyway, she competed on Invasion of the Champions 30-30, Vendettas, Final Reckoning, Total Madness, Ride or Dice, and All Stars 3. So she barely made it to the Oasis on Invasion, so she was booted kind of early on there, a bit before the halfway point. 30-30, she did get in good with the more powerful woman on the season. She held her own. She won a few eliminations on that season, and she made it to the end game, but lost out in the Preds right before the final, especially with Redemption kind of biting her in the butt when it came to Camilla and Cara Maria. On Vendetta, she played pretty well. Actually, she had her moments. Sorry, she was close with a lot of the guys, though her alliance with Cam and Marie really kind of fell apart, especially after the midpoints through the season. But she made it to the final and she got 4th out of 8, so that was good. It really seemed like she was going to become one of the best players and really just take over, but that never happened. She got booted right away on Final Reckoning due to fighting Melissa. She was off for a bit, then came back on Total Madness, got booted halfway. She really wasn't focused on the game like that due to a lot of relationship drama. She did Ride or Dies, which is her last season, and then she was booted right away. And then All Stars 3, she definitely held her own. She was a part of the majority alliance. She won some dailies, and She won an elimination on that season, and she made it to the final where she was the runner-up woman there. But you could also think that, or you could make the points that her being so much younger definitely benefited her. She has a 5-3 elimination record, so that's a positive for her compared to some of the women right below her. 63 percentage rate. She won five, lost three. But honestly, I could see myself moving her down a bit more into the future. Not bad, but just not great. She overall has a positive career, but yeah. At fourth is Jenna Campono, who competed on a Battle of the X's 2, Battle of the Bloodlines, Rivals 3, Invasion of the Champions, 30-30, Final Reckoning, What Other Worlds 1, and Total Madness. So she, like Kayla, had many deep runs, but they've never won. I think with Jenna, she's been to more finals and she had more endgame seasons. Her first three seasons had her going to finals where she made it to the final on Battle of the Exes 2 as a layup team, but just qualified because they refused to drink the potion. She won several eliminations in the Battle of the Bloodlines and ended up getting third there with her cousin. Rivals 3, she was partnered with Johnny's cousin, hence partnered with Johnny and Sarah. They won a few dailies. They are pretty decently on Rivals 3. I don't recall her ever going into elimination that season, and that would be the last of her finals appearances. Even her next two seasons, Invasion of the Champions and 30-30, were strong strengths for her. Though she was booted right before the end, I believe both of them were purchased too. So it showed that her mental aptitude wasn't the strongest, and it's something that she definitely needed to work on. She did win a few eliminations on Invasion specifically, so I do have to point that out. Her final three seasons, there's really not much to talk about. She was booted right away on Final Reckoning. War of the Worlds 2, she was booted midway through the season. And then Total Madness was also another mid-season boot that she won against Tori. She really wasn't that focused on the game and she was kind of checked out there. And that's where her journey ends. She does have a positive elimination record with winning six and losing three, causing for a 67% elimination rate. But you can clearly tell that her peak was in her first few seasons and she's gradually gotten worse since. And the lack of mental strength is a huge, huge pitfall that I don't see her overcoming if she ever even comes back. So at third place is Nani Gonzalez, who competed on Battle of the Seasons 2, Rivals 2, Free Agents, Battle of the Exes 2, Battle of the Bloodlines, Rivals 3, War of the Worlds 1, War of the Worlds 2, Total Madness, Double Agents, Spy Stars and Allies, Ride or Dies, All Stars 5, and Bits and New Threats. Okay, I doubt that I'm going to go through all of these seasons because she's done so many of them, more than most of a woman ever. The only season that she actually went home early on was Battle of the Bloodlines, and that was a season where she was booted halfway. So technically, she's never been booted early, and that's a huge positive for her. It shows massive consistency that most people just don't have. Her first season, Battle of the Seasons 2, had her in the majority for a bit, but then things fell apart. She was booted right before the end game. She was booted in the end game in Rivals 2, but she and Johnny really weren't in the majority alliance like that. Free Agents is definitely one of her better seasons. It was the closest that she got to winning. Actually, that might have been right, guys. But yeah, she got very close to winning Free Agents, and that was an individual season, so that was impressive. I don't think she went into elimination that season. Viola XS2 had her eliminated mid-season, but luckily the Redemption House, or sorry, the Exile twist was a thing that season, so she and Johnny had to beat several people to come back into the house, and then they were booted right before the final yet again. I already talked about Battle of the Bloodlines. Rivals 3 had her and Wes definitely more checked out. And you can tell they're just burnt out by doing so many seasons, not being in the majority alliance, but they still made it to the end game there, was booted before the final. She took a break for a few years. She came back on one. She had a kind of deep run. I'd say she was moved like two-thirds through the season, but ultimately it was due to the format going individual and her being eliminated in the dumbest elimination ever. Made it to she was booted right before the final on War of the Worlds 2. She was kind of on the wrong side of the house there. She was booted right before the end game on Total Madness, and then afterwards she would go on a three final streak where she made it to the finals on Double Agents, Spice Slice and Allies, and Red or Dies. She started working with the Big Brother people at around this time, and this is where she got close to Casey, and then the Vacation Lines was a thing in Spice Slice and Allies and Ride or Dice. Where honestly, I think Ride or Dice might have been the closest she got to winning if not for Free Agents. She went away for a year, then she came back on All Stars Rivals and Best Enemy Threats, where she was put right before the final on both seasons. So she has mad consistency, though others have won. But despite the amount of seasons she's been on, she's only made it to four finals. Her elimination record is at 9-12, so she's won 9 and lost 12. So that's a negative elimination record with a 43% of success in eliminations. And I think that elimination record is why she has so many endgame seasons or seasons where she's winning right at the end game, but few final appearances in accordance to the amount of seasons that she has done. At second, and I still can't believe this person at second is Nicole Zatanna, who competed on Invasion of the Champions, Vendettas, All Stars 4, and All Stars 5. The thing with her is that she's literally never been eliminated. She's been in 5 seasons. That is very impressive, and most people who even have higher heights than her do not have that accomplishment. And the thing with her is that 4 of her seasons were finals appearances. So it's not like she was moving in the end game or she was moving the season. She made it to the final in all but one of her seasons. Invasion of the Champions, she was seen as a strong player there. She kind of went under the radar when it came to all the political stuff that was happening with the two sides of the house that season. She got third on that season. Vendetta, she had a good relationship with a lot of the guys and girls. She didn't have to go into elimination on that season, and she made it to the finals, but she got bottom 4 on that season, though that was due to her injury as well. On All Stars 4, she got fifth and she made it to the final there, but she was obviously working with Laura and she was seen as one of the stronger women, but her mental aptitude just isn't there, which we see in prior finals. And then it's the same thing with All Stars Rivals, where she was partnered with they had good relationships with a lot of people in the house. They got their start at the right time, and she got fourth in All Stars 5. The one season where she didn't make it to the final on was Double Agents, and that was that's due to her being injured very early on in the season where she was booted. Essentially, I think she's the first woman to leave outside of Ashley returning. Her elimination record is 3-0, so she won 3 and lost 0, 100% rate. So yeah, her having a good elimination record, never being eliminated, is why she's here, but the lack of mental aptitude is a huge limitation. And at number 1 is Tori DL, who played on Dirty 30, Final Reckoning, War of the Worlds 2, Total Madness, Double Agents, Spice Dice and Allies, Ride or Dice, World Championship, USA 2, and Battle of the Eras. So she was obviously number 1 from Era 3, and she stands out against literally everyone else on this list. She was the rookie of the season on Dirty 30, as she was the only one to make it to the final and held her own against many of the super vets. Final Reckoning was a poor season. She was booted. Really, nothing more to say there. She proved to be a strong competitor on War of the Worlds 2. Despite her team targeting her, she flipped. She won many eliminations in the season, but she got purged midway through the final. Joe Mendes and Double Agents were just poor showings for her. No way around it. But this will be the last time where she's eliminated, which is impressive. Where the last time you were eliminated on the show is 6 to 7 years ago, as I'm recording this. In all the other seasons since she made it to the finals, so she made it to the finals on Spies, Lies, and Allies. It could be argued that she was robbed on Spies, Lies, and Allies. Obviously, this was when the vacation lanes was a thing. She won Ride or Dies, and she was the front runner for that entire final. She played things pretty well there. World Championship, she was the runner up there. USA 2, she got fourth in that final. She was working with a bunch of people that she never even dealt with, as she wasn't even close to a lot of the veterans there. And then she was fourth on Battle of the Eras too. So she won many dailies in many different formats. So she's a strong competitor in that format. And she has a really good elimination record, as she won 8 eliminations and lost 3 with a 73% win rate. So that's huge. So that is my commentary on the Era 3 women. As you can see, I don't think they're nearly as strong as the Era 2 women, and they don't have the excuses that the Era 1 women have when it comes to the poor formatting. So yeah, that's it. And then I have one more, which is Era 4. Okay, so we're 3 eras down and we have one more to go. It was definitely interesting going over this era because I think we got one edition, and obviously you have to look into how the two seasons that just happened will change things. I'm really excited to get into era 4 because I know there's a few editions there, and the show should be centered around them, but they're not being given that opportunity, especially if you're looking at how 41 was casted and 42, which is currently filming, is being casted. But yeah, we're almost done this. And then after that, I'll post all 4 videos into one long video. Thank you, and I'll be back soon.